Dark shadows of the city. The city was quiet and gloomy that night. Only sporadic streetlights cast long shadows on the wet asphalt. The wind whispered between the buildings as if foretelling something terrible. People had long been asleep, unaware that a true tragedy was unfolding in their city. Over the past 2 months, more than 20 people had vanished without a trace. All of them were adults, healthy, with no apparent reason for disappearance. The police were working tirelessly on the case, but there were no clues, no signs of forced entry, no witnesses, only empty apartments and alarming news reports on the radio. One of the last missing persons was Ethan, a young man working at the local library. He was quiet and reserved, rarely socializing with others. That evening, he left his house around 9 o'clock and never returned. The next day, his friends noticed his car parked outside his house, but the door was locked from inside. Inside, the silence was deafening, with moldy books scattered across the floor. On the table lay a note. "I found what I was looking for." No other signs. The police began searching the neighborhood but found nothing suspicious. Soon after, disappearances continued. People vanished without a trace in various parts of the city. The first encounter. 3 weeks had passed since Ethan's disappearance. Panic gripped the city. People were afraid to go out after dark. But one night, something terrible happened. In the old industrial district, a young man's body was discovered, his face grotesquely disfigured beyond recognition. Deep cuts and bruises covered him, like someone had tortured him before death. But what shocked everyone most was a small photograph lying beside his body. It showed him with wide-open eyes and terror etched on his face. The police quickly identified the victim as Michael, a college student who had gone missing 2 weeks earlier. But what truly disturbed everyone was where they found his body, at an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. This place had long been considered dangerous and off-limits. Crumbling walls covered in graffiti, broken glass scattered inside. Secrets of the factory investigators decided to examine this place more thoroughly. They entered with flashlights and cameras. Inside, it was dark and ominous, creaking floors, rusty structures, and a smell of decay. On the walls, they noticed strange symbols, unclear markings drawn in what appeared to be blood or something similar. Some resembled ancient runes or incantations. In the center of the room stood an old wooden table stained with bloodstains. On it lay a human bone carved with strange symbols. As officers examined nearby grounds, they noticed fresh footprints, clutching footprints leading into a nearby forest. Tracks in the forest. The footprints led to an abandoned house, a windowless structure surrounded by dense bushes. Inside, darkness and cold reigned. Walls were covered in mold and dirt. Scattered across the floor were discarded items, clothing, torn books with pages ripped out, strange objects, animal bones and human teeth. In one corner stood an old cabinet with locked doors. When an officer opened it with a key, inside they found a human skeleton dressed in tattered clothes. This was Ethan, the last missing person. But what was most terrifying awaited them. Behind a wall they heard faint rustling sounds. The horrific truth. From behind the wall emerged a man dressed in dirty clothes and wearing a mask over his face. He was painfully thin. His eyes glowed with malevolent light beneath his hood. He stared silently at police officers for several seconds, before suddenly lunging forward with a knife in hand. A struggle ensued. One officer managed to shoot him in the leg, but he kept attacking until he was subdued by force. When they removed his mask, they all froze. It was John, a man known as an ordinary citizen, until now. He began muttering incomprehensible words about the evil spirit, the curse, and the awakening of darkness. His eyes were filled with madness, uncovering the secret. Further investigation revealed a horrifying truth. John was possessed by an ancient evil, a creature from local legends called the Shadow of Lake or the Shadow of Oblivion. According to Old Town stories, this entity appeared every few decades near an abandoned lake outside town. It sought victims for blood rituals, to awaken ancient power or feed on their fear and death. John had become part of a dark network. He believed he could summon this demon through bloody sacrifices inside an abandoned factory and house in the woods. He created a cult-like following among his followers, people who disappeared one after another after visiting him or participating in his rituals. The final confrontation police apprehended John after a long chase through surrounding forests. But even after arresting him, horror persisted. Bodies of victims were found scattered across town or drowned in a nearby lake adjacent to the factory ruins. The legend of the Shadow of Lake continued to haunt residents as a warning. Evil never truly dies. It merely slumbers beneath water or hides within human hearts. And even years after uncovering these crimes, fear still lingered. Because who knows that maybe that shadow is still out there, somewhere nearby, waiting for its next awakening?